Hail, and welcome back to Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Night has fallen in St. Mystere, and we have still yet to find the missing servant Raymond. The last chapter was actually called The Missing Servant, and I guess that despite that we still weren't able to find him, so Night Falls is, in a way, it's just The Missing Servant Part 2. Except we get a beautiful nighttime setting for this chapter, and we also get to talk to the wonderful Adria, who's totally not a bit of a bitch. This is kind of her thing. She's a bit provocative, she's a bit trying to rile us up, and just generally rude. But right off the bat this time, straight into a puzzle. Puzzle 45, Lunar Weight. Now, the idea behind this puzzle is that we're trying to work out the difference of how much something weighs when it's on the moon, because gravity is different, it's 1/6 of that on the Earth. And the trick here, because there's got to be a trick for this kind of thing, is that when we put our item on the scales to weigh, we're going to put it in the scales tray, and the tray is also going to be adapted with the moon's gravity in mind. So it's gonna end up being around about the same. So yeah, that's one that can catch you out a little bit, but you know, like, I don't know, I feel like that's one of the harder to figure out ones, because you might not take the tray into account. And also some scales don't necessarily work like that, so it might not be the first thing that comes to your mind. It's just another typical Layton puzzle. I can take that for what it is. I did get the, oh, I see what you did there vibe immediately after realising, so I can't complain too much. But throughout this chapter, we are going to get to listen to the nighttime St. Mystere music. And I feel like this is a good time for me to properly dig into gushing over how fantastic this is, because this is the perfect walking around town at night, chill out kind of theme. I could picture this playing, like, if you just, maybe not necessarily in a busy city kind of area, but if you're in a small town, or even if you're away on holiday somewhere and you're walking around at night, it's just such a tranquil kind of ambient music. And actually, a few times now at night, I've just come to putting on some of the Layton soundtrack at night just to listen to while I wind down. Because I'm the kind of person, when I'm working, I tend to just stay up late at night. I'll finish off what I'm doing and then I wind down a bit. I'm very much a night owl with that kind of thing. So just when I'm finishing off work and I just want to wind down before I go to bed, having some chill music like this is exactly what I need. But let's go into some actual information about the game at this point, because I want to talk about the music a fair bit here. The soundtrack for Professor Layton and the Curious Village, along with all the other Layton games, was Tomohito Nishiura. And I will say I'm not familiar with this person's music before having played this game, but they're also credited with a few other level 5 games, like Over Blood 2 they did the sound effects on. They did the music for Dark Cloud, Dark Chronicle, and a game called Rogue Galaxy, which were a few of the slightly more obscure level 5 games before they started doubling down on Nintendo systems. Because I believe Dark Cloud, Dark Chronicle, and Rogue Galaxy are all PS2 games. I'm not sure about Overblood 2. I think that's a little bit outside of what I looked up on Wikipedia before starting recording. But this soundtrack apparently was composed with a very French style in mind, which I can hear, actually. There's quite a few games I've played actually that have a bit of a French inspiration behind them. Obviously we're also running Pokemon Y on the channel, and Kalos is based on France, and there's the odd bit of French inspiration there. And I've also played Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure. I'm mentioning that again because I just have a real soft spot for that game, and that's got a very French style to the music in mind as well. A lot of the songs are adaptations of classical pieces.
That should do it.
For that puzzle there, Star in the Sky is just a case of counting the triangles. You gotta look for not only the obvious triangle shapes, but the ones that are slightly obscured a bit, like on the points of the stars there and whatnot. So that's the gist of that puzzle, really. But yeah, on the whole, I do really like the soundtrack for Curious Village. There's some people out there who aren't quite as impressed from when I've been looking up stuff about this online. And the criticisms that I'm seeing are that it tends to get a bit repetitive. And I guess, like, I feel like that's a criticism as to how it's used in the game, which I don't personally agree with that being a problem. Like, I can see that they use a lot of the same songs a lot of the time. Like, there's the walking around town during the day theme, there's the walking around town at night theme, and then there's stuff like this puzzle theme that we're hearing now is the same puzzle theme for every puzzle, and if it's taking you a while to figure out the puzzles, then I guess I can see it, but at the same time, these are the kinds of songs that, to me, they don't outstay their welcome. I can happily listen to this song for quite a while. And same with the overworld themes. I don't see that as an issue. I can just kind of lose myself in the music, but I do recognise with that music is very subjective. This is just flat out my jam. This puzzle, by the way, is just a case of counting up the legs of all the pets that the guy mentioned. But I want to keep talking about the music, because there's so much to appreciate about the music. So yeah, like I can just listen to this over and over. I'm the kind of person that I haven't got to this yet, but I can see it happening. Where when I'm just focusing on something, this theme and maybe some of the other main overworld themes, like the St. Mystere daytime theme, I can see myself loading up one of the like 15-minute extended versions on YouTube and just chilling out, soaking in the mood, soaking in the ambience. Providing Nintendo don't keep on taking them down, which they've been doing recently. Rest in peace to that Brawl channel and to Gilversana, and I imagine a few more by the time this video goes up. I really wish they wouldn't do that, or if they were gonna do that, at least like put up official versions, like upload their own like YouTube channel that has extended versions, or just like soundtrack uploads of the songs from the games. But we've had our little back and forth here with a finding the wristwatch, which we're doing our good deeds, even though we are meant to be hunting down the missing servant from the manor. That's one of the problems that a character like Layton is going to have, in that he's too nice. You know, like anyone who needs a favour, they're going to go to him and ask him for help with whatever bullshit they need doing, even if he's really busy. Although then you do have the mantra of, if you need help with something, ask a busy person, because they prioritise it, whereas if you ask someone who just sort of sits around all day, then they're gonna just sit on it until they feel like it. So, like, if you're too nice for this kind of thing, you're gonna get screwed over. No, I'm not quoting from like some fucking incel subreddit there. I'm talking about just it as general life advice. That's kind of how this sort of thing works. we're not gonna be getting wound down for the night just yet. We're gonna be traversing the town a little bit and solving more puzzles. This is puzzle 47, On the Run. And this one, this burglar here, this mysterious bandit, whatever he's done wrong, he's trying to get away from the police, but he has a peculiar creed where he's vowed to never go backwards or turn around. And when he comes to a junction, he'll always go left or right. Now, I don't know what kind of group he's in that this is a thing. This is some like ritualistic behaviour. Like they have a special handshake and they knock on the door 4 times before answering, and I don't know. This seems really counterproductive. If you want to get away from the police, you want to just get the hell away from the police. You don't want to be faffing around. But yeah, just run for it, mate. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it at all. Back to the music, I do have 2 quotes here in regards to the soundtrack album, which as far as I know is Japan only, unfortunately. I do like me a good official soundtrack. There's a few actually that I've been planning to buy for myself, and I do have some others as well. Like I have a CD copy of the Everybody's Gone to the Rapture soundtrack, which is one of my favourite video game soundtracks ever. And I also want to pick up these soundtracks for Journey and Absu at some point. I believe Austin Wintory has physical copies of those soundtracks out that you can buy, so I'm probably going to get those at some point, sooner or later. But I have a quote from Square Enix Music Online, who gave the soundtrack album a 6 out of 10. And these are some of the people who have criticised it for being repetitive, and they describe it as a rather bland collection of repetitive and similar music tracks from the game, which I guess, and again, an each to his own thing. And RPG Fan Music have said the soundtrack is simply too repetitive to be considered anything fantastic. Again, I think that this is the kind of soundtrack that you get out of it what you put into it. If you're ready to just sit down and vibe in the evening, you'll love the soundtrack. If you want something a bit more punchy, then maybe it's not for you. But ultimately, this puzzle here, cats and mice, the answer is 5. It's still going to be the same amount of cats. They just have a bit longer to catch more mice. Once you figure that out, then you know the answer's 5. It's going to be the same number of cats. You don't need to bring in any more enforcement cats. You can just let them do their thing. They know what they're doing. I guess that is the logic that that's still 100 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they had like a trick out thing with that of like, oh, but the cat gets tired, because that was a thought that just came to my mind. But we need to fill in the blanks with a single letter of the alphabet of blank is 1,000 times blank blank. And this one, I'm proud to say I did figure this out for myself, and that is that M is 1,000 times MM, standing in for meter is 1,000 times millimeter. So it's a game of measurement. I felt really good about that one because it did come to me quite quickly. I didn't have to think about it for too long. I didn't have to stew over it. I could just like think, yeah, it's M. And that was actually my first guess. I didn't go through the motions of any of the others. But if you didn't get that to start with, I imagine it would be a case of just try out A is AA, no, it's not that. B is 1,000 times BB, no, it's not that. And just try them all until something makes sense. And you've got to bear in mind the different abbreviations for what they could all be. So like M, I clocked on that was meters and millimeters, but if you're just using a single letter, that could pretty much be anything. And I did find it quite satisfying to pick up the hint coins, despite the fact I'm not using them. I don't know, there's something that's oddly fulfilling about the little sound effect that plays when you pick it up. It's not quite a ring from Sonic, but it's definitely there. Marco, you don't seem like the kind of person who pays too much attention to what's dangerous and what's safe. Like, you're strolling around late at night as well, in an alley. And I took one look at this puzzle and just thought, fuck this. I see a lot of numbers on the screen, and it's just like, nah, mate. I'm not doing this one. I believe the trick that if you want to do it is that you sort of work it out backwards or something like that. I can't remember exactly with this one, because this was one that I just completely noped out of as soon as I saw it. Which may be cowardice, but then I did say with maths ones, they're the ones that I just cheat at, unless they come to me pretty quickly. Yeah, working it out backwards shows that B's the one that's reachable, and look at that, I weren't gonna do that. I'm sorry, I usually try to show some integrity with games, but for the sake of the playthrough, for not wasting our time while I were to get out a sheet of paper and try and calculate what's what, yeah, I was just fucking looking at the answer there. And I will say that in general, that's typically my approach to recording playthroughs, that I would rather just take the L on integrity and be a pussy about it, whether that be looking at a guide, or whether that be using save states if I'm emulating a game. I tend to prioritise getting the best rundown I can for the video, more so than for my pride. Which, granted, I couldn't do the save state thing here because I am actually recording this from my 3DS. I wasn't emulating this, which did make it a bit harder for me. I couldn't use save states to load it back up, but given how much of this game uses the touchscreen, I didn't want to be trying to drawing my handwriting on like with a mouse. I've done my time with that. I've recorded perfect runs of all these Sonic Rush special stages using a mouse. Never again. Until I get to the other Sonic DS games, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So yeah, this is how our little goose chase has been going around so far. We knew that our guy, our servant from the manor, Ramon, had gone missing. So we got sent around the village just talking to everyone, seeing who knew anything. We talked to Agnes a bit and she had those puzzles for us where we had to work out how, like, which of the illustrations she could draw with a single line she was standing where he was. Then we went a bit back and forth. We talked to a load of people. We got sent eventually to the restaurant and we talked to Crouton. And he didn't seem to know much, but by that point it was getting dark. We just had our little wristwatch quest. And now we're being sent to this other guy, Prosciutto. That's a name I'm not going to be able to pronounce. That's not even one that I could try and bluff something that sounds sort of like it. That is just flat out anything I say that's not just spelling it out is probably going to sound a bit offensive, so I'm just not going to try that. And this guy is a pony with his oddly detached moustache. Though granted, I do have a little bit of a dip in the middle of my moustache, but it's not quite that bald patch territory. Like, my bald patch is below my chin, but thankfully my beard is long enough now that it obscures that and you have to actively be looking for the bald patch to find it. I'm more worried about the receding hairline I have on my head. I'm 24 today at the time of recording and yeah, I'm going bald. I'm gonna end up like that guy on the left. But this puzzle 51, the town Barbers. In this town, there's 2 barbers, and everyone in the town goes to see one of the barbers. and you've got to work out which one would be the better barber to see. And the trick is that the guy with the good hairstyle obviously has to go to the guy that's not as good of a barber. So the one with the bad hairstyle is the better barber of the two. So if you want your haircut, go to the guy with a completely ripped apart haircut, because he knows what he's doing. He was the one who treated the guy with the better hairstyle. Although, to be fair, maybe some people like that rugged, chewed up like hairstyle. And it makes me wonder, how is this guy still a barber if he's doing hair like that, though? Because if the townspeople go to one of the two of them, how much business does the bad one get? Like, it seems to me like if about roughly half the town are going to see him, then you must have like half the town's worth of people just walking around with proper shredded up hairstyles. But puzzle 106, one of the hidden puzzles, how many glasses? This is a puzzle about how many you would have to move to change the pattern from the top to the pattern on the bottom. And the answer is just one. You've got to take that second glass along and just pour it in the fifth one, or the second from the right. It looks more complex than it is, and this one did take me a couple of minutes to figure out for myself.
Layton's apprentice saves the day.
So yeah, once you see the little illustration there, it does all piece itself together. And this one's sort of deceptively simple. I don't know why it threw me off when I first played it. It just sort of did. But I'm looking down at my notes here, and I'm seeing that the next couple of puzzles are ones that do give me more of a genuine reason to have been a little bit stumped by them. Because they both sort of maybe a bit of a rogue thing going on. There's a little bit of a element to these that you might not think of. And first up is puzzle 53, Fish Thief. Somehow, while you're in a restaurant, I assume, someone managed to steal your dinner. And this is another one of them find out who's lying puzzles. So you just gotta look at what they're all saying and consider what factor you might not have immediately thought of. Because the liar here is C. And the trick is that he and A both ate your dinner. So it's a little bit of a trick there, but you know. Either way, you're going fucking hungry unless you can maybe get some pity food out of someone given yours was stolen. I don't know, I don't think there's many restaurants or cafes or anything that would do that, because they'd kind of be hurting their own business in the process. I don't know, some might just for the good karma. And you gotta love whenever Agnes gives you your fortune, and it's always something foreboding. Pretty much anything she says can be summed up as watch your step, or something bad's gonna happen. When there's been a murder, when we've seen that Simon's been killed, and there's clearly something going on, all the villagers are unsettled and scared of something, getting a bad omen like that, it's the complete opposite of reassuring. Just gotta throw that one out there. But this puzzle 54, Monster. This one, you have to look at this image here and find where the monster is and stab him in the eye. And you may look very closely at this picture and try to see, is he hiding in one of the houses? Is he hiding in an alley? No, he's not. He's in the sky. If you look at the cutout shape of the sky there, it makes a admittedly kind of deformed looking. Not sure what's going on with his legs folding in like that. But there's your monster. He's kind of like Godzilla, but with a horn. I think that in itself is terrifying enough. And yes, it is a literal monster. It's not like symbolic for anything. They're not trying to do anything like that. Although you could probably make a puzzle about that if you were to piece something together. Something a little bit more complex. I don't know, there's a reason I'm not the puzzle master here. There's a reason why they got a dedicated person to make the puzzles for these. And what we just saw then is something that I actually didn't think to bring up when we were finishing off the robot dog in the last part. And that is his function is that if you just hover on the screen for a while, he will go and sniff out where the hint coins on the screen are. So he is quite useful to have if you just play it on your own, because otherwise finding hint coins is a game of just tapping repeatedly until you find something. Once you've exhausted the obvious places, of course. Like if you see a conspicuous barrel or something like that that might have a hint coin in, try that. But after that, you're best off just letting the dog sniff it out. This puzzle's sort of an optical trick. Just got to find that star shape among all these weird triangles and different cutouts and whatnot among that big clusterfuck of a picture.
I did it!
But I do actually want to wind back a little bit and talk more about this game's puzzle master, Akira Tago. He was the gentleman in charge of the puzzles for all the Professor Layton games, up until he unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago in 2016. He was actually quite well known for puzzles and mind games and things like that in general in Japan. He had a series of books called Atama no Taisoi, which translates essentially just to head gymnastics. They're like a series of puzzle books that people would read through and try and figure out the puzzles that he'd put together in them. And I believe actually the Layton series was conceived as a kind of licensed game for his head gymnastics series. The idea was that it would be an interactive game with versions of his puzzles from his books that you would just play on the DS screen. And that was the basic concept of how this came to be a puzzle game, and the story elements actually kind of came about a bit later, and that was because for some reason I think it was like a publishing issue or something like that. They couldn't quite get the license for his series of books, so instead they came up with this original series and got him on board to instead just create puzzles for this new series, which I think that's pretty neat. Like, it shows that there is a bit of a actual talent behind this. And he was also a professor in a university in Japan, Chiba University, I believe. So the guy knew what he was talking about at the very least. But what Prosotto there has been telling us is essentially him being the most recent part of our wild goose chase in finding out what's going on in the village. Because he was telling us that on his way home from the market, he saw what looked like a shady old guy just out and about, which raised his suspicion. And that doesn't really tell us much, but it's something to consider, given we have no other leads at this point in time. But that puzzle there that I've just skipped over was Tetrahedron Trial, in which you need to visualise which of those would form the tetrahedron in a way that the coloured lines just keep on going naturally, so it doesn't just awkwardly stop. it was a little bit out of my visualization range. I would say that that's another one of those puzzles where it kind of would be easier if you actually cut it out and try drawing it yourself. Like, I feel like as an old style puzzle, that's probably what it would expect you to do. I didn't feel like doing that. But what's this going on, eh? I think we might have found our man.
Luke!
Huh?
Sir!
What?
Hold it there!
Right behind you. Huh?
My word.
Man, I love these cutscenes so much. It's just something about the twee, I guess that's the word, kind of art style going, and the fact that it's really grainy and on the DS screen as well, I think really complements the style that it's going for. Like, there is actually a HD version of this game that you can get on iPhones and whatnot, but I've watched a bit of gameplay from that version, and it just doesn't quite have the same charm to it to me. So it seems like when these people are going missing, not only do they disappear, but we also seem to get these things left behind, which that's another mystery for the list, essentially. But it's another thing that we've got to try and follow. But yes, that is the conclusion of the Night Falls chapter. But you may say we've still got quite a bit of time left in this part. And that's because there's quite an extended in-between chapter segment here. Because this is about the point in the game where the mystery is starting to hit its climax. Not in the sense that we're going to solve it, but in the fact that this is where we've had so much information thrown at us. We've seen Ramon's body, and we've seen a mysterious possible villain character running off. Got a really pretty nighttime cutscene for it and everything. And we've got to decide what the next series of events is going to be. Chelmy, in true Chelmy form, is being incredibly unhelpful. Because, like, we've literally seen something up with our own eyes, but no, we're just causing a ruckus in the village. We're causing the problems. Can possibly be that Chelmy's slacking. And that's a bit of a fucking red flag about an inspector's competence levels, in the fact that someone has just witnessed a kidnapping and suddenly it's, oh, we'll have a look in the morning. The fuck? Raymond has returned? Okay. So, after all this that we've just seen this guy's body getting carried away. We've seen a mysterious old man who looks like he's up to something wrong. And then we've got a new spanner in the works. We've got the guy who we just saw being kidnapped has just strolled back without a single worry in the world. This is like one hell of a mindfuck if I've ever seen one, I just gotta say. When all else fails, go the fuck to bed. I'll say that actually does come in handy as life advice sometimes. This is one of my things, in the fact that my sleep schedule is completely knackered, and if I start feeling a bit woozy, just go crash for a bit. Or in my case today, where I meant to nap for a couple of hours and accidentally slept for a very long time, and now I'm wide awake at nearly 1 AM. So it doesn't always work, but hey, when your mind's fucking with you and you're seeing kidnapped people just stroll back like nothing happened, maybe it's a good idea. So, puzzle 12, make a rectangle. So, what you want to do is you want to make that rectangle shape without having to flip any of the pieces. And there's a way to do this, but the obvious way does involve flipping it, which is the trick for this particular one. So what you got to do is you just got to cut it there, and then you can get that staple shape kind of thing going on and just lodge it back in. You can't see this given this is an audio commentary, but I was trying to make hand gestures to describe it, which I do quite a lot, which isn't very good when you can't see me, but hey. I don't think that's quite how it works, Gordon. You can't just flaunt some puzzle knowledge and get a chick like that. Although saying that, like, you do live in St. Mystere, where this is like the main hobby. Maybe you're like some cool Chad for being like a puzzle master around here. I'm not entirely sure how the culture here works. I know I've spent probably about 20 odd minutes gushing about this nighttime music, but when you're getting this vibe of just sending everyone off to bed, this is the perfect wind down, chill out song. I could gush about this all night. I fucking love this song so much. So the conversation between Layton and Luke is ultimately them coming to terms with the fact that they saw it, but they can't explain it. And guys, just go to bed already. You're gonna make yourself ill dwelling like this. Believe me, I know. So it's no longer night time now, which means unfortunately we don't have any more of the really pretty dark coloured visuals, and we don't have any more of the nighttime theme, which is a shame, but I mean, this look and this sound is still really good in its own right, so I can't really complain too much. It still looks great, it still sounds great, it's still the Layton art style. There's so much that's great about this game's presentation, I can't say that enough. And I think this is something that it looks good enough in the video here and the recording, but it also looks really good on the 3DS's screen. And I'll say that's talking about the 3DS XL, which is higher than the DS's intended resolution. Like, it stretches the game out, which you can disable, but I just don't for the sake of recording. I want to get it as big as possible. But even on that, when it is stretching the picture, it still looks absolutely fantastic. And I feel like that's the strength of this cartoony art style, in the fact that even without the best upscaling technology, it still holds up. But this puzzle here, the odd sandwich, you only need to make one cut, because although it looks like you might want to do a vertical cut down the middle, that's not the most effective way of doing it. You want to do this horizontal cut here, and then you can kind of piece them together sideways. I don't know why you would make a sandwich that shape in the first place. It really makes no sense whatsoever, but hey, I ain't one to judge how other people have their sandwiches. If it's the way you want to cut your bread, if it's the way you want to put things in your lunchbox, and that works for you, you do you. And yes, we are getting used to Saint Mystere, and I will say that's another strength for this, in the fact that the town design, it really doesn't take you that long to learn where everything is. It's a very basic layout, which is ideal for this kind of game where you're going to be going backwards and forwards. Like, you're not going to get lost in Saint Mystere, and that's something that I feel is a really important point. Like, for game design in general, like, no one likes getting lost in a game, and when you have a position where you have to look at a map to find where you are, that can really kill your momentum. It can kind of take you out of it a little bit. But for the sake of this game, which is supposed to be very friendly to casual players, to people who don't really play video games that often, it's a really big deal, and I feel like the world design is absolutely brilliant in this game for that very reason. I'm not sure how it holds up in later Layton games, but I'll get to those when I get to them. But this puzzle here, puzzle 56, the Lazy Guard, this one has a little bit of a trick to it, in that this demonstration shows every movement being a straight line. It's either horizontal or vertical. You don't have to do that. You can go diagonally through this, which is the thing they do to try and catch you out. You don't have to have every turn being a right angle turn. Like, with that diagram there, and that fucking policeman there, or security guard even, like, he is so happy with himself that he's clocked onto this. Like, a lot of the time the illustrations in the puzzles tend to be the weaker illustrations, just because they're something that's going to flash up for a few seconds rather than be a recurring character. But when you get the really emotive ones like that, it's just so great. I love it. I don't know if you can tell from this, basically this entire part, that I just really, really like Professor Layton. And it's one of those series that I just really can't wait to play through more of the series, because it feels like it's a series of games that's completely passed me by. The only game that I've played similar to this was actually Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure on the 3DS, which is a fantastic game, but it kind of shows that I really was shutting myself off to a great series. And that's just a thing in general lately. I've been trying to open my mind to the kind of games I play, just so I can enjoy more different kinds of games that I usually wouldn't have gave a second thought. But this puzzle here is a self-explanatory visual one. You just decide which of the rings to cut, and that's all you got to do. So I haven't really got too much to say about that one. And I will say a lot of the puzzles coming up toward the end of this part are maths ones, so if I get a little bit more tangential toward the end of this part, it is purely because there's not that much I can say about the puzzles as they come on screen. But yeah, like I was saying, in terms of trying to open my mind to other kinds of games, it's something that when I was growing up, I don't know how much of this was just me having very obsessive tendencies of playing games that I am instantly familiar with. So like your Sonics, your Pokemon, stuff that I knew well and didn't deviate much from the path, and how much of it was other games just not really appealing to my childlike mind at the time. But I don't know, like, over the last few years, and I find it's particularly been since I've been running my FC Playthroughs channel, and I've been trying to expand my tastes just for the sake of getting some variety on that channel. that I've just been trying out all kinds of different things. I've been playing games that I usually wouldn't give much time to, more RPGs, more like puzzle games like this, and just a lot of different things, and it's really rewarding, I will say. This puzzle here, the idea is to have as much redundancy as possible because you want to get the longest possible route from A to B, and that means going up and back on yourself wherever you can. So you go the long way around, and I guess you get a little bit more exercise. Not really what they're going for, they're just making a game of it, but yeah, I am projecting onto these characters now. I will say that this is something I really need to start going for walks more often. Since I've been working from home and I've been a bit of a shut-in all my life, but especially lately, I haven't got as much exercise as I used to, so I do need to make a habit of going on walks again. Even if it's just walking to the shop and back at the end of my road rather than just being a lazy fuck and getting everything I need for the week in one hit. Like, it really wouldn't hurt me to just go down the road every day and just get what I need for the day. And I suppose there's also the other element in the fact that nowadays my dogs are very old and they're not as keen to go out on walks like they used to be. They do a lot of sleeping and they do a lot of occasionally having a stroll out in the garden, but otherwise not caring much. Bless them, like they are 13 and 10 years old, so they're old dogs, but you know, old dogs are really sweet. We found a little note on the floor here that's telling us about Baron Reinhold's first wife and how she seemed to not come out too well. She passed away, and it seems like that really took a lot out of the Baron, which is understandable. It is one of them things that some people unfortunately do get hit really hard with the loss of a loved one. That's looking like what happened to Baron Reinhold there. And we'll see a little bit more of that as we go forward. But yeah, that seems to be the central crux of Baron Reinhold's plot in this, and the fact that Lady Viola passing away messed around with him a lot. Now, the weighing cats puzzle, puzzle 60 here, you can try and trick me into playing along with a maths puzzle here by drawing some cats, but I will say these cats in themselves, they're not really that endearing when they've got these little tiny icons. See, the thing is, I'm looking at this and it's making me think of Choo Choo Rocket's art design. But not even the cats in that. They look more like the mice, which I'm not quite sure how that plays out like that. But, you know, that's what I'm getting from that. Like, granted, I haven't played Choo Choo Rocket in years, but still. Maybe I should. I remember having a lot of fun with that as a kid, but I haven't had my Dreamcast set up in a while, and I don't really feel like playing the Game Boy Advance version. I don't know, there is a fair bit to look at in terms of the garden there. There's the trees, there's the little lake on the side. It does look like a really pretty place to live. I know I've said that about St. Mystere as a whole, but the manor in particular. Jesus, dude, calm it down. So he's got livid about cakes. Okay. I believe that was something else actually in the US version, of something else that he got really mad about. I can't remember what it was though. Let me have a little look. Because I'm curious now. Okay, so I'm not finding it because the guide apparently uses the UK version as well, but I'm sure I remember it being worked up about something else in the US version that Matthew had made for him. Sweet potato fritters, that's it, I remember now. Like, that was the thing that got changed. I think in a later part I might actually go through and just talk about all the different changes they made between the US and the UK versions. Because I know that a lot of the changes from the Japanese one to the US one makes sense in the fact that some of the puzzles had things relating to Japanese text, so that obviously wouldn't have translated too well to an English-speaking country. But then the ones from the US to UK are a lot more bizarre a lot of the times. They seem unnecessary in a lot of cases. But this puzzle, what you got to do, you got to get a new cross shape that has 17 pins inside and 16 outside. And the way you do that is pretty much just by rotating the cross shape on its side. It just sort of works out like that. And I will say the design, when you've drawn it out completely with the original one still there, it actually looks kind of cool. Like, you got this weird spinning, I guess, frisbee sort of shape, like them ones that contract and then open back up.
Every puzzle has an answer.
But yeah, that one, I feel like it's harder than you might initially think because you've got to account for the amount of pins that have got to be in and out of it. It's like, it looks easy when I demonstrate it there because it, like, you are ultimately just rotating it that little bit. But when you've got to bear in mind those specific requirements, that can throw you off just a little bit. But this is pretty much ploughing through puzzles for the rest of the part now, so we haven't really got too much left to worry about in terms of story until the next part. Puzzle 62, a tricky inheritance. Why the hell would you leave your inheritance like this? Someone's got to work out the area of this triangular section of your estate in order to inherit it. And I guess if you're getting on in years and you just want to leave one final fuck you to your relatives, it makes sense to do it like that. Otherwise, you know, just go see the right people, go write a will, tell everyone exactly what they can and can't have. It'll be a much easier process. Like, trust me on that one. Yeah, that's pretty much how we do area puzzles. I feel like we've already been over this with one of the other puzzles. Figuring out area and whatnot, I feel like it was a slightly different approach to it. Given we're toward the end of this part here and it is ploughing through puzzles for the rest of the part, I do want to just say I appreciate the patience in me getting these parts out. Because I know this part in particular has taken a very long time to get done. And that's because not only is it a long part, it's actually the longest part in the whole playthrough, but it also got delayed a fair bit for a couple of reasons. One was that we actually had a massive heat wave over the course of me getting this part put together. So I had started recording the audio for it, and I decided I'd finish the rest the next day, and then the next day was melting hot, and I didn't feel up to it, and then it stayed melting hot for another week. and then trying to get back to it is very difficult when you leave a project half done, because then you got to go and refresh your memory on everything. And yeah, like I am making excuses here, but I do want to apologise for the delay, and also say I do appreciate the patience with me getting another part out. Hopefully there won't be too many more delays. Like the next part might take me a little while to get done, because the next one is another 50-minute long part as far as I recall. But after that, there's not many more long parts until the finale. So it should be a quicker turnaround cycle. And like that is something that I kind of have to account for when I work on these bigger projects rather than just doing shorter retro games and whatnot. But, you know, I do want to cover games like this because on the whole I feel it's worth it. It's worth that extra bit of work for being able to show off such a unique kind of game. He's really doubling down on this. I need to master puzzles so I can get a woman approach. And I don't even know. Like, I'm single. I can't really say too much about whether this is going to work for him or not. But, I mean, if it's going to encourage him to use his brains and help him better himself as a person, whether it works out in the end or not, can't really fault a man for that. And again, similar to one of the earlier puzzles, the one where, actually, what were we doing? The making a rectangle one. This we're also trying to break up the piece into that staple shape so we can get it all together. I'll just start to notice the same patterns from puzzle to puzzle, and that guy with that massive blade, I wouldn't want to piss him off. That's my takeaway from that. But yeah, in terms of the channel, just for probably the next few weeks, it'll probably be a little while before the next part comes out. And then after that, I'll probably try and plough through the remaining parts of the playthrough until it's done. And alongside that, I'm not sure when we're going to record the next batch of Pokemon Y. We were going to do it a little while ago, but Stephen had some family commitments, and so we ended up not getting around to it. Hopefully that will pick up soon, because we are on the tail end of Pokemon Y. So I'll probably be juggling the rest of Professor Layton and the Curious Village with the rest of Pokemon Y until they're both done. But Raymond is here, and Raymond is acting like nothing was ever wrong, and he's feeling on top of the world. He's got a new lease of life. We can't really say too much because we don't want to say to his face, I saw you getting killed, I saw you getting kidnapped, I saw you getting wrapped in a body bag, because I think that's enough to traumatize a man for his whole fucking life. Let's be real here. Like, no one wants to have those images described to them. Especially if you believe in fate or the paranormal or anything like that, you might worry that it's a bit indicative of something. But I think that will do us for this very long part of Professor Layton and the Curious Village. So join us next time where we'll be moving the plot along a little bit more. I'll see you then.